I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Trish.
Mrs. Brew?
Here.
Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mr. Menegini?
Here.
Mr. Marraro?
Here.
Mr. Pop?
Here.
Move on to the approval of the agenda. If there's no additions, are there any questions, comments? If not, I need a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda for the regular meeting dated June 15th, 2020. Support.
Kramer? Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Marraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. Move on to the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of June 1st, 2020. Any comments or questions on the minutes? If not, I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the regular meeting, minutes of regular meeting, June 1st, 2020.
Support.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Marraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Approval of Manifest 2020-12. Scott, do you have any questions?
I got a couple questions here on admin, financial, legal order, down at the bottom. What is the meter lease, March through June?
It's a postage meter.
Okay, I have another one through.
On what page, Scott?
It's on 1-6.
Okay.
Let's see where we're at here. Okay, I'm going back to the electric one. On page 4-6. The deep woods pellets, what is that? For 194.21. It is 4 items down from the top. Because if that's bug spray and stuff like that, when do we start covering bug spray for our departments? And why is it only electrical department that has this?
I'll have to check and see what that is exactly.
That's all I got.
Brett?
I have none.
Jeff?
No.
Lee?
I got a couple. Page 3, I think I'm just going to mention this because I think it's awful expensive. Professional services, Trico Opportunities, flower bed planting and maintenance, May 2nd for $2,000. What's exactly entailed in that?
That's the contract we have with Trico through the DDA to maintain. They come in and
Yeah.
completely clean out all of the beds along Main Street.
And now that's through the DDA?
That's through the
Yeah.
DDA.
Yeah, I see, okay, they
And
got it
they, and
here.
they maintain it all summer
Yeah,
long, too.
but I just wondered if that 2,000, is that just up to date or?
Yeah, that's up to date.
That's up to date, but now every month will be?
They have a periodic, there's usually about 3 different bills that they have during the year.
Yeah, we approved that.
Yeah.
Within the last month or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's every year.
That's an annual.
It just seems high to me, that's all.
Well,
That's
it's,
actually, and that's for the full month of May. It cut off the date, it was for the full month of May.
Oh, okay.
And that
That still
first-
seems high.
that first cleaning is always more, I mean,
Okay, and just down below that, remind me here, rental lease under communications, truck rental, TRL Rents LLC, what?
yeah, that, we had to bring in the truck, our cable boom to Appleton, and so we had to have a loaner in order to
Oh,
do that.
okay, that's all I have.
I have a couple. 2 of 6, under Public Works, road, machinery supplies loader, HYD issue, what is that?
Hydraulic issues,
Okay.
this is the
so there's
repairs we
some-
had to do on our loader.
Okay. Right. Then under the electric department, I also had a question on the Deep Woods towelettes. And then down below there, I see logo water cooler. Do you know what that is?
The cooler is down at the hydro. We don't have potable water at the hydro.
Did we have that before?
We've always had it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, okay, then, down below that D handle, whatever, and then it says a cooler again.
The rental, the cooler rental, probably separate
No,
from...
it ain't the rentals, I'm coming to them.
Okay, which one is it?
It's under Hull, at Hull's, it goes with drain spade, shovels, cooler.
I don't know if it's a cooler for the truck, I'll have to double check.
Okay, and then, so when we get to the cold rentals, them are one for the dam and then one for the shop? Because you got two charges there?
I'll pull those all for you.
Okay, and then also with that, 20-ounce bottles, 5 cases of water, when do we ever order cases of water?
Well, we've ordered cases of water for the trucks, but I'll pull all that for you.
What do you mean for the trucks? When did we ever supply bottled water for the trucks?
I don't know. I'll have to pull that and talk to him. I have no idea what's going on with these bills.
Okay, and then we'll move on to HILP fiberglass sectional cabinet, 33 by 53, $1,575. Do you know what that's for?
I know it's one for one of the projects.
That's Stuart C. Irby, I remember that, Irby.
I'll pull the bill.
Okay. And then on wastewater fund, halfway down, energy control and design, sensor failure, checked wiring change, what was that on? Do you know?
That was, I believe that was, again, on the grit building, but I'll have to double check.
Okay.
What page was that on?
That was 5 of 6, I'm sorry, Scott. It says sensor failure, energy control.
It'd be interesting to see if that's one of the new things.
That's what I was
kicked
wondering.
Already, yeah.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
I think they all are,
Because
yeah.
there's no excuse for that.
Yeah, that's why I brought that up. Okay, I have no other questions. Do I have a motion to approve the manifest?
I'll make a motion, we approve manifest number 2020-12 in the amount of $208,513.58.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes,
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
No, I noticed that on here you still have the Zoom. We're not under Zoom anymore, right?
Yeah, I corrected that.
Okay.
Yep, I got it in the second one, addresses from the audience, but I didn't catch that one.
Okay. Anyone wishing to address the council on any agenda item shall do so now by coming up to the podium and stating your name, address for the record, and there will be a 3-minute per person. We have no one. We'll move on to public hearing. Do I have a motion to go into a public hearing?
I make a motion to go to public hearing.
Support.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yep.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. We're going to do a second public hearing on our budget. We did a public hearing at the last meeting, not really necessary, but we can continue on. Again, as I mentioned at the last meeting, we went through and had 6 different budget hearings, and we had a series of questions. We went through each fund. We have the 12 funds. I don't know if there's any additional questions that have come up between the last public hearing and this public hearing.
Anybody?
I just have some questions on our expenditures that we have here. Coming up here. Looking at the mayor council elections, 95,850. Is that just what we're paid and what we're paying in elections?
No,
What does
no.
that entail here?
That's usually out of mayor council is general expenditures that we classify as political in nature, not operational. So they could be publications. There's a whole series of, here, it'd be best if I just go through it.
So I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, well, I know what their council makes, and then I'm looking at, where's the other 85,000 comes from here? We pay 85,000 for people doing the elections, or?
No, the elections the election workers are in the salaries.
Okay.
You have salaries and, of course, the FICA, there's training that's involved. Any of the groups like the Michigan Municipal League, which is political in nature, any of the conferences, any of the work that we do with them is through this account. There's supplies that are, you have $3,000 a year in supplies, $2,500 in postage. There's some general professional services, probably the majority of it is out of your professional services. When we look at that professional services, you would have like your charge cards. No, we don't do the charge cards. We have part of the safety, MEUW is out of there.
MEUW, Ray?
Yeah, that's the municipal employees, municipal electrical.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't have that
Wisconsin.
underneath a political thing, right?
But there's some, Mary, why do we did we put that because there's some,
Are you looking at 720? Or
I was looking at 819 professional
819, the
services.
biggest part in there is the attorney fees.
Yeah,
Oh, Mr. Carr.
36, yeah, attorney fees.
I don't think we charge MEW to,
I'm sorry, I was an admin, I'm sorry.
yeah, okay.
Well, that makes sense if the attorney fees.
Yeah, the attorney fees are in 819, so that's,
And that's under-
100% is out through, we put that in mayor council.
Okay.
We do
That's a good
transfer to put that back through for all the departments to pay back into transfer. So like your code supplements, web hosting, appraisals, we've got some money in there for appraisals, property, any of the property work that we do comes through mayor council.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Are we sure that that intergovernmental from state, that number is gonna be close to that? Or is that still just estimated?
Are you talking about the,
320,000 under revenues?
at this point, we're using the latest figures that they have given us, so.
That number
I mean,
could,
we've sat through some of the webinars, but they don't really have a clue,
Yeah, I
really.
mean, it's an estimate. And now the last two webinars, they've left that number flat, so I thought on the second one they would lower that, but they haven't, so.
It's even like the gas tax. We thought that, like the Act 51, that it was gonna drop, but actually, it didn't drop. It stayed flat, if not increased. So, see, the thing about the gas tax is it's not, there's a portion of the gas tax on fuel that comes to sales tax, which goes into this number, the revenue sharing, but majority of the gas tax is actually a flat amount on gallons. And, not sure if, that they lost a whole lot of gallons, So when the price dropped, it hit the sales tax a little bit, but it didn't hit the gas tax, which is what Act 51 is based off of.
Any other questions?
I'm just gonna open it up for questions, because we went through it in the last meeting.
No, only a comment for me, and I'll save that for the end.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion to go back into regular session?
Make a motion to go back into regular session?
Support.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Move on to communications, Resolution 2020-12, General Appropriations Act. Mr. Anderson?
Okay, this is a requirement under the state of Michigan that we pass what they call the General Appropriations Act. It's Resolution 2020-12. It basically outlines your general fund and your Act 51, your major and local street. So the numbers are updated based on the budget that you're going to approve on the next resolution.
Any questions? If not, I need a motion.
Make a motion, Resolution 2020-12, General Appropriations Act be approved.
Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. Move on to Resolution 2020-13, Operating and Capital Improvements Budget.
This is just a simple resolution passing the fiscal year 2020-2021 operating capital improvements budget.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Resolution 2018-13, fiscal year 2018-2019 operating and capital improvements budget be approved.
Support.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Approval of Low-Income Assistance Program.
Okay, under Public Act Public Act 95 of 2013, this is something that we've dealt with on an annual basis. The Low Income Assistance Program was established by the state of Michigan in 2013, where you have a choice to either opt in or opt out of the program. If you opt into the program, then historically, it's been anywhere from 92 cents up to 99 cents of your utility bill, of your electric, goes into this fund. It goes to the state of Michigan, and it helps pay for low-income assistance for utility bills. If you opt out, our customers are not qualified for two programs. I'll use acronyms, the SARS program and the MEEPS program in the state of Michigan. And also, we are not
Allowed to shut off.
allowed to shut off from November through April. What we do, we've opted into the program each year, and by opting into the program, what we follow is an alternate law, which basically allows us to work with the customer, and they come up with a payment plan during these winter months. We still work with them based on temperature, but we have the latitude to put them on this program. Otherwise, we wouldn't hear from them, or possibly not hear from them for 4 or 5 months.
Have we actually really cut somebody off during those months?
I think we have, depending on the temperature.
We have, especially with the remote disconnects that we have now, the meters, where we could shut them off from the office, we don't have to roll the truck. We're not leaving them off overnight, but for the most part of the day, we're leaving them.
No, I know you've worked with these people if they come in and say, hey, we got a problem, that's very understandable.
I find it interesting that basically I see this as almost extortion by the state to get communities to opt in by denying other benefit programs to your citizens, and causing the utility not to be able to shut off in the winter months. I find that typical government right there, at its best.
There's been a number of different legislative points when it comes to shut-offs in the winter. What really precipitated, actually before 2013, there was an incident in Bay City where an elderly gentleman they put a load limiter on his meter, and it tripped, and he didn't know how to trip it back. And he actually had the cash sitting on his counter, but he didn't know how to get down to the city hall and pay the bill. And so there's quite a bit of discussion about even having any type of shut-offs. That's where the current legislation that we utilize came out of that issue, where there's actually a payment program that we put somebody in. They come in and they sign an agreement with us and say, okay, we put you on this payment program, but you have to stay with it. And then if they, default, then we have to go to other extremes. But for the most part, I think it's worked pretty well for us, other than the irritating part from our customers that they see this year, 93 cents that's going to go, per month. And the other part of it, after the first legislation, when this one came out, it was the gas company that actually pushed having this, and they didn't want to put it all in the gas company, so they put it on the electric company. And I think it's because there's more electric meters than gas meters. So,
Yeah, to me, it's like an unlawful tax, right? I mean,
Yeah.
basically, they're saying, this money doesn't even stay in our community, guys. It goes out to the big areas where you have a lot of hungry people. That's all.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion the Low-Income Energy Assistance Program, PA 95 of 2013 be approved.
Support.
Mr. Mararo?
Abstain.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Grant, I gotta vote yes or no?
Yes.
No.
Thank you. You said if you're able to abstain, Councilman Moraro, there's a basis for it, but parliamentary procedure requires a yes or no vote unless you have a
No problem.
no would be appropriate, sir.
We'll move on to the Dickinson Trail. Request to build trail on city-owned property.
well, this is similar to request that was brought in earlier this year. The DTN actually has now approval to build a connection through Verso property, and they'd like to, the city owns roughly 4.5 acres down off the Menominee River, and they'd like to come across that property, come from the road, come through our property and connect up with Verso property along the river, and hit Pierce Gorge.
Campsites or something years ago?
Well, it's in the plan that we were going to utilize that property at some point when we get the ability to do that. I don't think that these trails, and even the trails that they're putting in out off Oakcrest Drive in some of those areas, I think they fully understand when they go in and work on these, that if we have a plan later on, or that they'll work with us and move them around, yeah.
I don't have a problem with this. I think they did a good job with the trails they already put out there. I think we're very fortunate that they're putting the trails around our city. I think it's bringing people in. I hear a lot of people talking about it, and people coming from out of town to use it.
I'm at Marion Park quite often at nights now, softball, baseball, there's movie, and there's always trucks parked there with people taking off on their bikes and hitting the trails. So that is great, you can run by that. There's people who let them use trails.
Yeah, it's a good thing, real good thing.
It is a good thing. Have we had any reports of any kind of vandalism or people going off the trail or people being where they're not supposed to be, or any sort of activity like that?
I think that the reports that I receive are not really from the trail use. The reports are from the people using the trails that notice other people that are accessing the property not for the purpose of using the trails, and, you know, a lot of the trail people actually will pick up garbage, they will, you know, they are very respectful of the properties, and they see other types of access that's going on, especially in that 160 acres that we have right next to the golf course. And that area it's gotten a lot of attention lately, and we have a gate there for a reason, limit the motorized vehicles. You know, when we first put that gate up, the whole point was that we've talked about having that developed at some point, and it's going to be developed at some point, housing, and that it's best to have everybody start realizing that, you know, it's just not free-for-all access back there. So that's been the complaints, and Grant and I are working on some rules that we'll have for council to consider as to how to use the property.
Mr. Carlson, so legally, it's city-owned property. Can we keep people out of there?
To a degree.
Okay.
You know, the council is tasked, even though it's public property, it's owned by the city, the council is able, under your charter, under our current ordinances, you can pass reasonable use and restrictions. The council has wide latitude. Anytime you're talking about public health, safety, and welfare is what the council is tasked with doing. And that's what Mr. Anderson, and after some of the things that have been going on recently, and certainly getting more use, it's spurred discussions and a look at our parks, what's appropriate for park use, what's not, depending on the parks. When I was working on some of these other ordinances, started putting together a park plan for the council to look at, and work with Mr. Anderson as well, get to the planning commission. But you are able to restrict or oversee and pass reasonable rules, reasonable regulations that would limit access or the activities on city-owned property.
Thanks. Ray, are we having issues with dumping or what?
There's some dumping that goes on, I wouldn't call it dumping, I would just say litter. You know, somebody goes back with their stuff, and I don't think they're going back with garbage bags and dumping. I haven't had that kind of report. But, you know, they're not careful about hauling their stuff out. You know, they have bottles or, you know, whatever they have. So.
Thank you.
I think the other one that we're going to bring into this, not to bring this or keep this going too long, but we'll address it. Those areas back there have had a long-standing tradition of hunting, and you know, there are permanent blinds back in those properties. That's something we'll discuss. I'm not advocating one way or the other in this conversation, just that it's an awareness that that'll be actually part of our conversation, similar to the way state land, where, you know, if you go in, you bring your blind in, you gotta bring it out, you know, and maybe some similar rules, because there's some awfully permanent blinds that have been built over the years in there.
Are we concerned about, during hunting season, especially rifle season, folks using those trails during, you know, firearm season? That kind of worries me.
Well, and Councilman Morales, that's one of the things that I spoke with Mr. Anderson, I've also been chatting with some of our regional neighbors, I guess, specifically with Marquette, where, you know, as these trails, you know, you've got the Oakcrest Golf Course, and you've got these trails, you also have an individual that has a company that started up out on the Pierce Gorge that is doing adventure type trail access, camping, etc. There's starting to be, and we're seeing it all over the UP, frankly, kind of starting to have a lot of people into an area that used to be open. You're starting to have it's getting smaller and smaller. So the bike path or the bike trails is one of their concerns, and that's one of the things that they want to work with. You get a lot of times bikers, hunters, ORV or UTV riders, hikers. You all have a lot of folks trying to use the same parcels sometimes. And I think that people are very conscious of that and trying to make it work for everybody, because biking is no more important than hunting, is no more important than UTVs, is no more important than tennis, baseball, golf. So I think there's starting to be some of that concern. Rifle hunting, I think that they're concerned a little bit about it. They're conscious of it, but also understand they live in the UP. And a lot of folks that do the biking out there also hunt. So there's things that, the council might want to take a look at. That's what we were starting to at least look at as far as some of the city's different areas. Some are more
Or you
used than
close
others.
the trails for them.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
What worries me, Scotty, is we're starting to really expand that footprint, like, we talked about up here now too. I mean, now we're getting a lot of parcels involved, where there's gonna be hunters going in, especially with rifles. I wonder if we should be talking about, with these charters that we're allowing these guys to do this on, maybe saying, look, the trails are off limits for, November 15th or November 30th.
Yes, yeah.
Well, and that's been discussed.
Yeah.
The thing that worries me too also is out there, we're trying to develop that. If there's people hunting out there, that might be.
Well, that's right, exactly.
We live in the UP, everyone hunts, but there's still a lot of people that don't hunt, and they have kids that want to build.
Oh, for sure. We'd obviously definitely do something with that, yeah.
And that's some of the considerations that the planning commission, and Mr. Anderson and I have already started chatting about that. I put together a rough draft, starting to look at a lot of areas that have park rules. We don't have park rules per se. Like Governor Marion Park, Governor Hanbury Park, there's more specific lines and things to take a look at.
I just want to clarify, it's not like, I'm not trying to give the hunters the upper hand here, but they have to share it. Hunting's 2 weeks a year. They get it the other 50 weeks a year.
Well,
so.
it's so dangerous as well, to have them both out there at the same time.
Exactly.
It can be
Right.
dangerous.
Right. Like you said, we have to share share this property and make sure everybody can enjoy it the way needs to be enjoyed.
Right.
So.
And that's where we, we think we need to go through, like our Parks and Rec Committee, and then with our Planning Commission, and have an extended conversation and more eyes looking at it and then with you guys to, come up with a reasonable share for everybody.
Right.
So, I agree. Everybody has their own, look at Fumie, I know that they've had conflicts with bikers and equestrian.
Yeah.
So you have the conflicts, and
You do.
we're just trying to figure out how best way to,
Well,
Kind of
to
go through
Brad's point, we've got so much public land now that is kind of park related, right? Or, very recreational. Fumie is one of them. All the parks, all the wonderful walking trails, everything we got down there. And yeah, there's gonna be conflicts. So sooner or later, we'll probably have to get some ordinances or at least some rules and regulations in place.
And I appreciate you looking into that, Grant, and we look forward to,
Yeah, thank you. I'm good, Madam Mayor.
I do have one more question on that. Were these maps given to the volunteer fire department or search and rescue like was requested?
the DTN has been working with the fire department. They've had conversations, the details of those conversations. I've had some conversations with David. It sounds like they've had enough conversations so that they're on the same page, not that they totally agree.
Because
but
with
they're
the
still
more
talking.
usage, it's gonna happen eventually.
We gotta have some
unfortunately.
markers,
We
like
gotta
we
have
talked
markers
about.
or something
Yeah.
for somebody to get rescued.
So they're working on that, and I think the DTN is working on putting markers up so that they can identify. And we're concerned about, depending on where it is, and, can we get equipment back in if we have to go back to get somebody? So we've been working closely with them to try and filter out those concerns.
Okay.
if nothing else, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that DTN be approved to construct non-motorized trails on the city property located near Pierce Gorge.
Support.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Morrow?
Yes.
Request to place signs on city property, Art for All.
Well, this particular request, it really comes from our COVID situation where the typical Art for All program that it normally runs up in City Park, they've changed the program this year to have the artists display their art at their residence. And we have an artist in town, was up on the hill, and she requested that she be able to put some directional signs out off the highway. She lives up off of Summit. It's Suzanne Tinty, and she would put them at the intersection of US 2 and Scenic, Scenic Drive and Valley View and Summit.
For how long?
Huh?
How long would the sign be up?
1 day.
One day.
One day, June 27th, Saturday, June 27th.
The only bad thing about it is, everybody's gonna see how bad Summit Road is.
We could put a
Well,
drop box.
Yeah, exactly.
Put a drop box out, maybe we'll get some donations.
We're not gonna be working on it at that time, are we?
If there's no other questions, do I have a motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I motion that we approve the request to place signs on city property for Susan Tinty, Art for All, at intersection of US 2 and Scenic Drive, eastbound and westbound, intersection of Scenic Drive and Valley View, intersection of Valley View and Summit.
Support.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Approval of electric department distribution system improvement project. Mr. Anderson.
Okay, earlier this year, we brought to you a request for the 3 different projects, Kimberly Road, Viking Lane, and District 5. And so, we are near the completion of the first phase of District 5. And so Mr. Hagee would like to move over and work on, I think Viking Lane or Forest Drive is probably his next biggest concern. But he wanted to bring this back out for council's consideration. We did put the monies into the budget for covering all of these projects during this year. And one of the things that I wanted to have him provide was an explanation. I know we talked with him during budget hearings, which I think was a very, very helpful conversation. And I did want to also have him give a 3-month schedule. I believe we have 3 months, June, July, and August, or at least June, July is in the packet, which shows District 5. He does have, he's actually showing District 5 through Thursday, but I believe they are able to move equipment here probably by Wednesday. We are going to move down to Strawberry Lake. We're going to finish that job, either starting at the end of this week or first thing next week, and have that work done because Mr. Beck is coming in at the end of next week to finish up his work. And we also, let's see, and then he showed you the breakdown Forest Drive Kimberly. We have the 4 of the linemen, the 2 apprentices. Well, actually Jalen is right at the end of his apprenticeship, so, but younger, we have the 2 younger linemen, and then of course our seasoned linemen. So we split them up in basically two crews, and so it's mainly an equipment issue. I wanted them to finish up on District 5. I know Strawberry Lake is a high priority right now, but he has to have that equipment down to do Strawberry Lake, so.
Well, isn't it, can't you just haul it down there?
We can, but I wanted him to finish District 5 so he didn't have to haul it back up there.
Oh.
So he's finishing that up here within today or tomorrow, so then he can haul the equipment down. So we're asking for that request. On a side light that just happened, I gave you I handed you tonight, as you walked in, a report that I just got today. We had a little hiccup in our unit number 4, so he has been down working on that. They opened it up and they cleaned it up, they put it back in service, and there is some wear on the bearing, so there's some concern, so we're evaluating that right now, so it is down for next couple days. I told him we're getting some pricing on different options that he put into his report. So from a dollar standpoint, I'm not sure, how much, but I'm sure it's not a $100,000 job. That's,
Didn't we just rebuild these units?
Not for.
Not 4?
no, we did do quite a bit of work on it, repairing it, putting it back in service.
We didn't replace the bearing when we did the wicket gates, though.
We replaced, that's a brand new bearing.
Is that a brand
That
new?
is a brand new bearing.
That's a brand new bearing, yes. That's where our concern on the wear comes in, and see, that has an open the water's not filtered going into that bearing. And so,
There's probably debris going in there, right?
yeah, we think the zebra mussels actually are some of the worst debris that's getting in there.
Yeah, I get that part's cost us, the new bearing cost us.
About $16,000 was that new bearing.
Ain't that special?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of options. One is to filter the water, but in talking with our hydro specialist, Mr. Klabunde, he suggested that we consider putting that, it's a wood bearing actually, it's a lignite vita bearing. It's actually, we have that in Unit 3. I caution though that we don't have any problems with Unit 3, but Unit 3 is also a low-speed unit, not a high-speed unit. So I want some additional thought put into that based on the types of unit. But that was his suggestion, is that we consider doing that. It actually works better in these abrasive situations than the current bearing style that we have.
The other options are actually putting some kind of filtration system in?
Yeah, and I think that'll be more expensive. So we're gonna do a deep dive in the investigation on it.
We need
and
to.
pricing,
Yeah.
and see.
Because again, if, $16,000 isn't exactly cheap either, and, I mean, if the wood bearing isn't an option for the high-speed turbine.
It's an option. We had a wood bearing in it one time.
It is an
Okay.
option.
Yeah, it's an option. But I don't want to use the performance of the bearing on Unit 3 to dictate the performance on
Right.
Unit 4. But again, I mean, Mr. Klabunde has tremendous amount of experience, and this is what he thought would be probably our best route. So that'll mean a lot when we bring it forward for council on the pricing.
Yeah, I like it though, Ray, give us some options there.
Yeah, you get the options. And then the other thing is that he just wanted to point out that we caught this very early on because of the vibration monitoring that we were doing. So he wanted to thank council for having that foresight to put that on when we put the vibration sensors in.
We're a bunch of geniuses.
There you
When
go.
it comes to that.
Sure, it's 16,000 for the bearing, but what's the labor?
We're doing the labor.
Oh, we can do that ourselves? Oh,
We're
okay.
doing the labor. Yeah. Now, if they have to construct, we're gonna probably have to get a CR Meyer or a Myron to come in. But if it's swapping out a bearing,
Even if we go with the wood bearing?
I believe so. I believe so. But even so, we'll look at the cost. We'll get costs on all of it.
We didn't have an extra bearing for that?
No, see, what happened was we ended up purchasing the new bearing, but the old bearing wasn't redone.
Okay.
I thought that we were getting the old bearing reworked, but what we ended up doing was we ended up just getting a new bearing, and we didn't get the old bearing to the shop to get redone.
We can still get that from Brazil, like it's considered an exotic wood.
Yeah.
Has any of you ever seen that wood? It's like steel. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's hard.
Unbelievable.
I was wondering, my question would be, why are we not finishing District 5 Road?
Well, we only did the phase 1.
I know, but why wouldn't we go through and finish that? Because isn't that where we're losing the most generation up on that District 5?
It's not just based on the line loss. It's not just based on the line loss and the voltage. We have some other issues, like we mentioned over by the school, with poles or, the condition of the infrastructure. So what we're doing is we're picking these bad spots and we're getting those done. The next segment of District 5, I know you asked a couple times about, the ledge and whether we're going underground or we're gonna have to go above ground. We have to take a closer look at the next phase, because the next phase is gonna go through that area that everybody really sees. So I think we're gonna have a combination of underground, and then we're gonna have to come up and get over that ledge area. So we got some additional work to do in looking at that and planning that.
But so far, most of it's been done underground, right?
Yes, yes.
They haven't got to the back.
On some of this, like what you're seeing, it wasn't too long ago, actually, I think it was before we got quarantined or whatever, that we have too many things going on at once. And when we don't finish this, how long WPA took us because we had to jump off, do this, we had to jump off, do that. That's where I would just like to see one project get done, finalized before we jump onto another. But I also have a question. The Kimberly Road, we're putting phase 3 out there because we're thinking that we're gonna have to put a well out there.
Correct.
Are we for
Now-
sure gonna put a well out there?
Well, we have to evaluate that.
If they're telling us that we have to have a well site, is there something that we can go for, some type of grant, because there's some type of funding out there
We are-
that could just be covered under?
We could. They haven't opened up the grant monies in the water side. All the grant money's been pushed to the sewer side, but because of Flint and because of some of the water issues and some of the requirements, there's some hints that they are gonna put out some grant money.
So if that was the case, would we be able to throw this electric on that?
You could, if your power requirement is to go out that area, we could. So I think that the best way to put this is that we want to make sure that we attack these projects in phases where we have a termination point. So, the District 5 job comes all the way down to a termination down here almost by the shop. And that's pretty much a 2-year job. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we're evaluating our system and catching these segments that we have a definite problem, and we want to catch those.
So that phase that we did out there now, or that we're completing now, is that helping us at all?
Yes, it does.
Because you're going from, instead of having point A right to the end of point B, now you have point A to B, then you have that span there.
Right.
Of B to C, then you have C to D is finalized. Is that, so that in between, is that?
It's not,
Garbage, not garbage, but is that just less power, what?
it's more garbage out towards the end. It's less garbage as you come in.
Okay,
Our problems are from the end. That's why we went from the end back.
upgraded up there.
Right, you're catching the worst segment, so the next phase is the next worst segment on District 5 road. But we got some real concerns over by the school and through Forest Drive that we wanted
Now,
to
that
address.
Forest Drive, are we gonna be able to go, is this part of this project that he wants to do, is this going through the backyards?
No, this is a phased again, that would be the final phase of that, so there's really 2 phases. This is to catch that riser by the school and to get that bad segment. We did the same thing when we did WPA Road. We actually did a phase over by the intersection with Brickyard, and that was falling apart. We had to catch that. We had severe line loss in that area. We cleaned that. We ended up having to go to Vulcan because Vulcan had some areas. We didn't do all of Vulcan. What we did was we hit those bad segments that were causing the major parts of the problem. Then we went back to WPA and we finished up WPA into that last phase. We broke that into 2 phases. And we did the fairgrounds based on that as well. So that fairgrounds actually a 3rd phase of the WPA.
Shouldn't we wait for Kimberly to see if we can get a grant to help us out there before we start?
You could wait on Kimberly if you wanted to search for the grant. I would highly recommend during the summer that we hit the school, the Forest Drive or Viking Lane. We hit that one and get that one cleaned up because that has some pole issues, definite concerns. And I also, when we put this in, we didn't have the Unit 4 question. So, if we picked off Viking Lane and then let us get the numbers for the Unit 4, and then I could get some more information on Kimberly Road.
Yeah, because we
Yeah, I
already
like
got
that.
that, I don't wanna.
Right.
We could do that, but
Yeah, 'cause that makes more sense.
I really would like
Tie it with
to,
the water project, the well project.
Now, we're talking over by Viking Lane, is that what happened last year when the school lost power for a couple days?
no, I don't think so.
That wasn't,
I don't think that was part of it,
or
no,
whatever, okay.
no.
Going through Forest Drive area, are they gonna go underground where the poles are now?
Yes.
So there's gonna be a lot of sheds are gonna have to be moved.
Yes, and that's why that's a phase 2, because we're gonna need to get information out to everybody and say, we need to take a look at that right-of-way. I need to work with Grant on looking at Forest Drive subdivision And what that right-of-way figure is, I believe it's got to be at least 10 feet. So, we're going to have to get the notice out to
Yeah, and when
everybody.
you do these, can you say, phase one? Because I guess when we were doing the budgeting, I didn't realize that. I thought when you put District 5, I thought it was the whole road coming through.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
We did-
nice to know in phases, because, you say Kimberly Road or Forest Drive, people are gonna think the whole thing's getting done, and it isn't.
And then same with us, we go back and see, all of a sudden we see another budget in it for
Yeah,
daily
right,
payroll or something, it's like, whoa, didn't we do this whole thing last year?
right.
Yeah. We good?
Yeah, I just was thinking about that tonight, about the grant, if we can get some.
Are we having-
If we have to have it on our website, hey.
That's great.
yeah.
Great idea, Scott.
I think we should just do over by the school in Forest Drive for now.
Viking and Forest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, until we see what's going on.
You good with that?
That's true, but I think there's gonna have to be some work done on Kimberly Road. Take a ride, you got all of the poles that are starting to...
Well, let's get these.
It's a matter of
Maybe we get these
straightening
done
them up a
first.
little bit,
Yeah, maybe
you
we
know.
get these done too lean, then we can, if we need to send some maintenance stuff out there, maybe we can look at that later, right?
Right, we can look
Yeah.
at, come back to it.
Well, if we start having some severe issues, I mean, we'll come back to you.
Yeah, we'll come back to it.
You said you got 2 crews, are they both working on line work then, both crews?
Yes. Well, he had one helping him down at the dam. He had a couple of those guys helping him with the dam work, but the other 2 or 3 were on Cloudna. Yeah, I think he took one down to the dam.
And then he's doing the work orders?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a motion?
By motion, let me see how we're gonna motion this. By motion, we approve Forest Drive and Viking land for the amount of $44,886.50. And we table Kimberly to wait additional information.
Yeah, that's good.
Support.
Mr. Marrero?
Yes?
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Minigini?
Yes.
Move on to ordinance 435, amend ordinance number 371, solid waste collection, rubbish compost.
Okay, one of the city-owned facilities that we did want to push forward with getting a set of rules and regulations was the compost site, compost collection site. And also our rubbish, we included the rubbish and recycling. After we looked at it, Grant and I sat down and we looked at our existing ordinance, and we did come up with a revision to that ordinance, amendment to that ordinance, that would be ordinance 436, which further explains, I think, and better defines how we're handling rubbish, recycling, and compost. It talks about our collection facilities, both at our DPW building and at our site, our Norway area compost site. In that ordinance, it does have for penalty, and we also use penalty, Grant, and maybe you could take on this conversation further, but we also talk about general penalty, and we said, not all of our ordinances have to have a penalty phase, because we do have language, generally speaking, for our ordinances through civil infraction. So we were covered there. So our ordinances are in very good shape for that. And Grant, I don't know if you have anything you want to add?
I'll try to keep it brief. Council directed us to provide ordinance to allow for enforcement of the rules of the compost site. Section 2637 reference rubbish collection, which seemed to be it was outdated the way it was worded, and so what we did was took that section and expanded it and kind of clarified it further. There's three services that we provide to the people, the city of Norway, and then also the compost site of the township. So 2637 has a part A, which is the rubbish. We have the dumpsters over here. We've had problems with illegal illegal dumping, we've had contractors dumping, materials there as well. It's been a pretty consistent criticism and concern of the council. So that is in reference to subsection A. Subsection B, there's also recycling bins over there. Council has expressed concern in the past. We've had large-scale dumping and recycling bins as well. People dumping all kinds of material that just shouldn't be in recycling. Council's invested money into cameras in the past to help with enforcement, to give it a little teeth and allow the police to investigate and cite folks, and I think it's helped clean it up a bit. But this puts some more teeth into it. And then finally, section C, which is the compost site, which has sub A and sub B, and hits on a few of the issues, but frankly, from the ordinance perspective, it hits on some of the issues that you'll see the next resolution. In the ordinance itself, I want to be able to allow council some leeway as things progress and as things change, to be able to come and set rules and we change rules by adoption of those rules of operating a compost site. Looking into statewide, everybody runs their compost site differently. Some people man it, some people have attendance, some people have pay to drop off their compost, some people, or some municipalities take it to different levels. We're trying to provide a service but not get over the top of it, is my impression of all the So I didn't want to have, as you can see in subsection CA, the council and the city will establish rules and regulations that can be adopted by the majority of the council and change it up if need be. But I also thought it was important to put within the ordinance the very specifics, which is that it cannot be used by commercial entities. Keep it simple to the rubbish, yard waste, brush, no brush over 2 inches in diameter, and try to keep it manageable for the city. So that is the ordinance. It's an amendment of the current 2637, which is attached. I think it accomplishes, and I hope it accomplishes what the council is looking for.
If there's no other questions.
What's the fine gonna be?
Fine, if you look at section 2640 within the existing ordinances, there are penalties that are already within there that the ordinances lay out. For every offense thereof, you can punish by a fine of not less than $10 plus the cost of prosecution. Maximum fine is up to $500 in the cost of prosecution, based upon a schedule established from time to time by Norway City Council. Norway City Council can also remove and address the improperly placed garbage and put the cost upon the individual assessed for violation.
Scotty, as a contractor, you ever come across a job that somebody went out there and dumped that'd be worth it to take the $500 fine on in a prosecution instead of paying to dump this stuff?
No, it's less than $500.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm good.
There's no other questions, do I have a motion?
I motion that we approve resolution,
Ordinance 435.
ordinance 436? 35?
Actually, I think it's 6.
436.
436?
Yep.
Amend ordinance 371.
And amend ordinance 371. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Meneghetti?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Move on to resolution 2020-14, rules and regulations of Norway Area Compost Collection Facility.
So this is resolution 20-14, 2020-14, and these are your rules for the compost site.
If I may again, just
Go right ahead.
did work, Mr. Anderson, I sat down on council direction last week to come up with this. Also, again, having these separate rules allows us to post them out there. The plan is, I believe, to have a very large sign. The city of Iron Mountain, or not city of Iron Mountain, we do look a little bit to some of our neighbors and how they handle things. Also some of the other neighboring areas of UP. This is being printed on a very large sign placed out there, so there can be no question that violation of these rules will result in a civil infraction being given, and also to please respect our compost facilities so the citizens of Norway and Township continue using that.
Yep.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion resolution 2020-14 be approved.
Support.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes. I'd just like to make a comment here, ask a question. You mean to say up till now, we had no right to find somebody that did something illegal out there?
Not true. Depends on what they did.
Because I was questioned the other day about somebody from the township saying you can't, it's illegal for you to charge me, to fine me. I'll find out.
It's on city property,
Yeah, it's on city property.
so it could even be a trespass.
Do we have teeth in that? Of course, it's being changed now, right? Do we have the teeth to really stick it to somebody?
Well,
They're guests of our facility.
$500. And
Well, I mean,
road costs.
those characters that dump 3 truckloads of stuff out there, I mean,
That's more than $500.
well, yeah.
Well, that's what I was getting at,
For the roads, yeah.
yeah, that's what I was getting at before.
well, and if, again, looking at the way the penalty provision reads on the existing ordinance, that we did the amendment.
We can back charge and remove it, yeah, so we're covered that way too, yeah.
Okay, speaking of the same thing, what are we gonna do with that mess out there now?
The brush? We are waiting,
Brush and everything else that's there.
well, we have to haul away the actual compost up to we bring it up to the transfer station. And the brush, we're waiting on the contractor to come in and he's gonna
Is
chip
he
it all
gonna
up.
try to chip that or haul it away? That's
No,
gonna
he's-
cost a bundle.
Chipping it up.
Okay.
He's chipping it, yeah.
As long as the township shares, goes with their 50%.
We've never had any issues with Norway Township. They've, you know, we bill them half of our costs, and I think they realize the benefits of working together on it. I mean, it's city-owned property, it's city limits, so, I mean, it falls under our jurisdiction.
Anyone that would like to address the council on any item, state your name and address for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. We have no one. We'll move on to mayor council comments. Scott?
One thing I'd just like to say that the city, looking at what's on our desk tonight, coming in, what vandalism on at Strawberry Lake again, you know, next thing you know, it's disgusting. That this stuff is continuing to happen, non-stop. We put this out there for public to utilize, and when you have a few rotten people, it just wrecks it for everybody. Another thing I would like to ask is, we went through that program where we signed up for that, paid for that program last year for the daily timesheets and the iPads and everything else. I brought this up not too long ago. Where are we on that? Because that was supposed to help out
Yep.
women in the office and everything else.
We are working with the program right now.
Because last year, I remember we had the summer help that she was supposed to be having everything done or whatever with this thing. Now it's coming up on a year.
Yeah,
I just want to know where we're at.
We had, like I told you before, I mean, we had the delay during the Christmas and then through, and we switched servers and whatnot, and then Scott picked it back up, and, I mean, he's been working with it, and,
Okay. But the garage guys?
no, I didn't put the garage guys are the most complicated, and I wanted the bugs worked out, because we're still working with it. You know.
Ray, it just, we just want to see, you know, some return on the investment, right?
Absolutely.
A tangible thing, so when you're ready, hopefully in the near future, maybe we can see some reports or something like that, how it's
Well-
helping.
Based on the question that you brought up actually, a month or so ago, during one of the budget hearings, what I wanted to do, starting in July with our July meetings, is actually bring in like Empower and have them come in and explain. You know, because it's the easiest thing, the best way to understand the support and everything and have those questions is to have them back here in front of you, because it's their product. Same as GoTech. You know, as I mentioned in one of my executive memos, you know, we did go out for competitive bid when we did IT. Of course, as we get along every year, that IT as we do the security, we had the Homeland Security, some of the requirements, some of that has changed. I'm gonna have Chris do the same thing. He needs to come in, explain the service system again, because that's their business. I mean, they're the IT people.
That's great.
So I think that would be the most beneficial to me, for the councils, to have them come in one-on-one so you can focus on them, ask them those specific questions.
Yep.
And then, rather than me being a middle person telling them, hey, we need, like Empower, we need to get this, or, have this work.
Yeah, I'd rather hold the folks that are responsible, accountable anyways, so
I haven't come in.
I'm really good with that.
Yeah. So that's gonna start up in July.
Good.
And do that.
Sorry, Scott.
No, that's fine. The last thing I would like to see, like I had mentioned before, Marion Park's utilized more throughout the nights, or afternoon, night patrolmen can keep the bathrooms open out there a little bit longer than what, because they're locked at 3 o'clock. You got a lot of kids peeing behind cars and everything else out there after practice.
Three.
They've been open locked pretty early.
Well, then that's the DPW locking them.
Is it?
The police usually lock them at dusk.
Okay. Yeah, if we could just if we could keep them open. That's all.
Brett?
Where are we at with the road bids as far as this year's projects?
That should be coming to you in July.
Okay. I have nothing else.
Jeff?
Yeah, I've got a few things, Madam Mayor. I know we mentioned, Ray, looking, some communities, you get on the road and you're coming up to, I know we don't have a freeway here, obviously, but you have the signs that say, hey, gas, and this is what it is, and it's got a little arrow, take this exit, and it's got the restaurants, and, we mentioned this before, Mr. Anderson, about putting those up to help our downtown district for the businesses that aren't on the highway, that don't have highway signage. Are we making any progress on that right now?
That's wayfinding signs. MDOT.
MDOT,
I
okay.
have struggled with them for 15 plus years on wayfinding signs. So, it's one of those where I start down that road, I get frustrated, I put it aside.
Okay.
Because I even made out the permits. I mean, it was quite an extensive number of permits. We laid out locations and whatnot, but I had to cancel those permits because it was just, I don't know, frustration.
It's too bad because it's an opportunity to get people off the highway and downtown.
I'm not saying, we need to do it. It's just with everything
Okay.
going on.
Thanks for the update.
Yeah. I do have a folder with it, though.
What's that?
I have a big folder of wayfinding and.
Okay.
So,
Norway Spring, is it open?
it's open.
Great. Thank you for that update.
Seen a lot of people there too.
Good.
They're happy.
I just want to comment on the budget approval that we did tonight. Obviously, we all spent extensive time in budget meetings this past winter and spring. And even though we approve a budget in a setting like this, we always need to remember that a lot of stuff is just kind of, we put it in there and we always have the opportunity to look at it again later. So I just want to say personally, and Ray, you know what I love to say, just because it's in the budget doesn't mean we have to spend it, right? I want to make sure that everybody understands just a yes vote tonight by me for the budget doesn't mean that I won't be questioning many things as they come up. Lastly, I'd like to comment on some things I've heard, some rumors from the street. I just want to clear the air with anybody that's watching that the council did not cancel the 4th of July parade. The council does not have, we didn't vote on anything for the 4th of July parade. I will say that the council wanted to have the 4th of July parade as long as the governor wasn't going to cancel it. Along with the fireworks, and everybody in this council also said they wanted to hold the fireworks after the firemen and the fireworks association said, yeah, they really wanted to do it. So I just want that to be public knowledge. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Lee?
Yeah, first off, Ray, I'd like to thank you for addressing the manifest questions we had last time. But this UP Concrete here, for $1,500, sewer covers for road project in Vulcan, run by the Dickinson County Road Commission on 577. Now, that's a county road. What do we have to do with a county road?
It's our sewer. Our sewer is in the county road.
Our sewers, what happened to those 3 covers? Did they damage them, or what?
They were replaced. We had 3 new covers that we
Yeah,
had to put on.
they were replaced, but I mean, why were they replaced?
I don't know. I was going to, as I put in my memo, I'm going to contact the road commission and Norway Township because the roads are in the township.
Yeah.
And find out if we can get the reimbursement for those covers.
Yeah, I see that you're gonna try to get reimbursed for that, but I don't know. I'd like to know why they did it in the first place. And I mean, it went through the city, it said sold to the city of Norway. Somebody had to prove that.
Yeah, that was a federal aid, that was part of the federal aid project list this year for the county road commission, that they were improving that section right by the bear off of there and.
And we don't know if it was damaged by them or not.
No.
That's why they had to be replaced.
Right.
That's where I'm going.
I'll check in on that.
Okay, that's all I have.
Right, one of them was damaged by the paving company, and they did pick it up.
Oh, so you're saying there were 4 of them
There was
damaged?
actually more. The paving company did destroy one, and they picked it up the tab for one.
Oh,
For sure, I do know that.
okay, good.
Ray, where are we at with Lita Strobe? Are we still on time? Are they
Yep.
coming in?
Actually, I have to get back with them because I didn't hear this directly, but I think Scott Klabunde made a comment that they were asking consideration to actually come in early, if they could, to beat their schedule. So I have to find out exactly, what that request is. But they're definitely on schedule.
Okay.
I think they're going to ask to actually come in earlier.
Where are we at with the meters?
With the meters?
Electric and water? Putting the new ones in?
For water? Yeah, we haven't put any new water meters in. We put them in when the meters expire. So we've been replacing dead meters with the new ones. But we haven't programmed new meters, new water meters. And I'm just trying to see what we could do with going into the summer and into the fall. If we could program, trying to get, because the guys have to go in the house. So that's another thing. I mean, we just recently got back into
I'm
houses.
just worried about them meters being obsolete by the time we get them in.
Yeah. Well, it's much harder to put the water meters in than the electric, because you have to make the appointments and get into the house and so on.
And you have to have 2 people.
Where are we at with the meters and the electric side?
Well, we've been working on the project, so we pulled off the meters from this winter. We put quite a few in this winter. So how many we have left? Maybe 300, 400?
I know we've got it still in the budget for July 1st for another batch, and I think that might be the last one.
Yeah. Yeah, we're close on the electric side.
I can get you updated numbers, Ken.
That's fine. All right, Chambers, a little bit more normal. Everything isn't back to normal, but we're trying to get there, and it's nice to be back in here. I want to tell everybody have a happy and safe 4th of July, and enjoy our fireworks, and please be courteous of each other. And that's it. Ray?
I just have a couple things. We hit a couple of the items that I initially wanted to make sure you were aware of, the Unit 4 issue. I think that worked out well in the communications, where we could have that conversation, open again for any questions you might have. The vandalism of Strawberry Lake, it's always frustrating. We try and work at putting in beautifications and benefits for the residents, and then we get certain few that really put a frustrating element to it. We spend money fixing when that money could be used towards improvement. So one of the areas that we didn't talk about, of course, we're in full swing with property maintenance, and zoning is in full swing. And we've gotten recently quite a few calls of swimming pool complaints. Trish and I actually spent some time today collecting some information because there's the regulations, especially fencing, goes through actually the building code outside of our code. We do have some language in the property maintenance that deals with the security of the swimming pool. This is for the public's benefit that the pools, we deal with pools similar to sheds where you do need a zoning compliance permit. There's setback requirements for pools. And then there's also, you know, if your pool is like a wading pool that's under 24 inches in depth, you don't need to have protection. But unless it's over 48 inches, you need to have a fence or some kind of security, unless you have a removable ladder. So if you're 48 inches and you have a removable ladder, then you don't need the fencing. Now, we have very few problems with people that construct more permanent pools. Above ground, below ground, we have very few problems. I mean, they come in, they get their zoning compliance permit, they put up fencing, they put the decks on, they do all the things because it's permanent. Where we have problems are the temporary pools you buy at Walmart or Home Depot or wherever else you get them. They're either blow up, initially we saw a lot of the blow up type pools. Now it's more of like there's this thin PVC framing and then almost like a tarp, and they put the water in, they take it down at the end of the year. Those still classify as pools. And so the complaints that were, especially one that came in today, was about one of those types of pools. And I just wanted to make sure council aware, I mean, if we have to go out and start regulating, because most of the time, someone with a temporary pool, we never hear about it. You know, they don't think about getting a zoning compliance permit, and then it's the complaint. But if you go around, I mean, there's quite a few in the community, and, I mean, we hit one, we're gonna have to hit them all. So I wanna make sure council is, you know.
Well, if a kid drowns, I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Save a kid from drowning.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the depth, you know, when I go and I look at some of these pools, I'm not sure from a temporary one if it's 48 inches or not. I mean, the three that I saw today, just kind of taking a quick look, I'd have to go on the property and take the tape measure. I mean, it's close to being either 42 to 48. It's got to be at least 42. I'm not sure if it's 48. So, and there was no ladder, you know, they pulled the ladder, so they probably would be okay. It's just...
Well, pool manufacturers kind of know that too, right? So you would hope that most of them would.
Well, a lot of those removable pools are 54 inches now.
Right.
54. So if they're over 48 inches off the ground, then they're in
Is
good
that
shape.
the water depth or the?
The 2 foot is the water depth. So I mean, if you dug a foot and you had it 2 foot up or 3 foot up, you would be over your 2 foot. But the 48 inches from the ground, so.
Mr. Carlson, would that fall under to a homeowner's insurance policy somewhat? If that was legal, not legal, or what you had to do?
No, Brett, basically.
No? Okay.
Yeah, under the insurance policy, the insurance company wouldn't make them fence it, or they would cancel their homeowners,
Okay.
from what I've seen.
So, like with most of our issues, you know, we don't send out the police or the zoning police or whatever you want to call us. You know, we're not out looking for the problems. Majority of the issues that we address are done off a complaint. But, I mean, the officers, when they're out on their tour, they know some of the things they're looking for, so they give us information. The garbage men give us some information. In our DPW, you know, they're out in the you know, when they have issues, especially, you know, the garbage men see the blight issues, so they give us that information. So we work together on it, but like I said, I mean, if you start hearing from residents who are concerned, saying we're not doing anything, that's not true. But if you hear of people complaining, because we are contacting them, just want you to be aware of it.
So anything over 48 inches, they have to have a permit to put in their yard?
No,
No.
anything over 48 inches, as long as they have a removable ladder and they can take their ladder
So
out,
if you
they
got a ladder
don't.
that can be removed, it's
They-
fine to have it, but if
With
you...
no fence.
With no fence, but if the ladder does not remove, they have to have it fenced.
Yes, because a small child could
Right.
topple in.
I'm
Now,
just trying to clarify it.
yeah. Now, when it comes to pools in general, from a zoning compliance standpoint, they need a permit. Other than the little wading pool, I'm
Right,
not
or
gonna
can't
fuss
remember
with
the
it.
ones you used to buy at Walmart, those little, you know, that about this high?
Yeah.
Them are wading pools, them are okay too. They don't need anything for
Yeah.
that.
But,
For
you
the
know,
little kids like I have
Right,
for my
right.
grand.
but, you know, you put even a temporary pool, I mean, some of them are pretty good size. You know, we want them to have setbacks off the property line, since some people put them right on the property line or something. and-
But you have to have a permit for one of them too.
Yes. Now, what I always suggest, if they know it's temporary, and they're gonna take it down at the end of the year, I don't make them do a permit every single year, as long as they put it back in the same location. So if they came in and said, hey, I wanna put this pool up, I'm gonna do this every year, I'm gonna take it down, put it back up, I mean, we can do a permit that will account for that, but we wanna make sure that they know the setbacks and that we're good on it. So, I mean, we work with people, I mean,
Posted
it's,
somewhere? Is it posted somewhere that you need the permit? Because I'm not gonna lie, years ago when I used to put mine up, I had no idea.
yeah, you don't know, and that's the way zoning is. I mean, a lot of times, people just don't know, and it's hard to post all of that unless you actually get into the code and start looking at it. So we appreciate people that call us. We work with you on understanding what those rules are. Zoning, I mean, you know,
So
I
if
think
anybody
Trish knows
has
way
any
more about zoning than she
questions on
wants to,
pools,
because it's a,
Call into City Hall, because there is some
yeah,
restrictions.
call City Hall, ask us. We try to work with it. We're not trying to make it a painful process, but the whole idea of the permit is to make sure
And
you
I
don't get in
think this
trouble.
year, I don't know what it is, but I know a lot of people who are looking for pools, and you almost can't find a pool anywhere, and I think it's because people are not vacationing this year, and a lot of people decided to put a pool in for the kids or
Yeah.
whatever, because I know people can't find pumps, they're looking for pools, and you can't get them anywhere, so I'm thinking it might have something to do with the COVID and people staying close to home.
Yeah, I get it, and like I said, we're not trying to discourage it, we just want to make sure that, you know, you follow those setbacks. And then the last thing is, Mary and I were talking about, we were looking at the electric cuts, the orders for electric, you know, stay on the utility cuts for non-pay is over. So we have 17 that are due on Wednesday and another 3 that are due the following Monday. So we want to make sure council's good with that. We're going to move forward with it.
So you're asking us from the COVID standpoint, or?
Yeah, that's over with. There's no stay now on utility of not cutting, because we've been under we weren't under the Public Service Commission order, because being a municipal electric, you know, we're not governed by the Public Service, but all the municipal electrics wanted to abide by those, because it would just take some legislation by the state to put us under it, and we don't. We like you having the authority, not the Public Service Commission. But that Public Service Commission stay is over. It was over on the 12th. And so we want to make sure that you're aware that it's over and that cuts are out there.
So basically, as you said before, as long as the people call in and set up payment plans, we'll work with them if they're still unemployed or whatever it is, or hard times, but we will cut now if they don't.
Yeah, we will cut you if you do not contact us. We always work with somebody.
Yep.
Now, we have repeat conversations, so it gets a little more difficult, but the ladies are fantastic in working with people, you know, that need to be worked with, that need the help.
Okay.
So, but we need to get paid. I mean, it's a
That's
business
fine.
too, so. Speak,
And what about, are we applying penalties this month? That was the other part of that.
oh,
Because we waived the late fees, March, April, May. So June coming up, bills are due the 25th, we would normally apply those late fees on the next day.
Has our summer help all arrived?
Yes.
They're spread out?
I don't, what about the late fees? Do you think we, being that we didn't say we were gonna apply late fees, should we wait for next month?
I'll
What's
say
the
this,
feeling?
there's a lot of public money out there helping people right now, you know, the unemployment and things like that. People should by now be okay, but I guess to Candy's point, we could maybe give it the rest of June and, I don't
Wait
know,
for the next bill?
wait for the next bill.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
How's that sound, Mark?
That's fine. Just wanted to know for sure.
Yeah, sounds good.
Put back in or not.
Yeah.
One other thing, can I ask Trish a question? Trish, on our, when you type up our agenda, would you do me a favor after the minutes? Will you put questions from last meeting? Because Lee brought it up and I didn't get to I always forget to ask that. So it would be very helpful if you put that right on our agenda, then
Do you
I
want
don't
me to
forget.
ask? I can,
No, that's all right. I
we
mean,
had some from last meeting that we could,
Most of them were answered, I think.
And most of them were answered,
You
Ray,
answered
that's
them,
fine.
But it was in the executive memo.
Yeah,
Right. we
yeah,
have an
that's
exec-
fine. But I mean,
Just
let's
remind
just,
you to ask.
yeah, so
Yeah.
put it on the agenda. Sorry, Ray, did you have anything else?
no, I didn't know if you wanted me to, so it's a public hears, you ask the questions and I give you the answers, but if you wanted the public to know them.
No, you did good, buddy. We got her.
Okay, it's up to you.
Is everybody else all right with that, or would you like? to
No, yeah, no, that's
Okay.
fine.
All right. Mary, Trish, do you have anything? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yep.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Minigie?
Yes.
Mr. Marraro?
Yes.
Madam
Meeting
Mayor?
adjourned.
Madam Mayor? I spent some money on some real